Well, hey, greetings, and where's Rupert gone? Oh, cool. I'll get him back.
Don't you love it when your
Hooray!
tech works? Hello, everybody.
Yeah, I thought it was going so well. And yes,
2
and
seconds in, yeah.
kudos to you all for turning up when I forgot to blooming post on the Patreon page, at least to alert everybody and remind everybody that we were going live. So I hope it wasn't too late. Greetings to you all. Michael here, OVS.
Yes, Rupert here, or OVS, I say OVS, who knows?
Yeah, well, cheer up, Rupert.
Yes.
It's going to be fine.
It is going to be fine.
Despite another evening of plumbing the depths of our ignorance and everything. So, hello to you all, and thanks for being here. We got a bit of housekeeping to do, sort of a bit of catching up to do. I forget how to do this thing because we don't since we moved to doing the other live as a Zoom call for our Patreon supporters. We only do this thing live to YouTube once a month, and it seems like, well, how do we do this?
Housekeeping. Yeah, we have got some housekeeping to do. I think the biggest piece of housekeeping is actually coming up in the first question. So by chance, but other general things. This the Q&A has always been on a Tuesday evening.
That's a good point
Tuesday
to make. Yeah.
But moving forwards from next month, it's actually going to be on the second Thursday, not the second Tuesday.
Right.
So it's going to be the Patreon live is on the first Thursday, and the live Q&A is on the second Thursday of every month.
So I'll do my best to actually do a post to remind you of all of that. Yeah, it's So,
but I will be posting the call for questions. Sometime in the next week, anyway. So I will make sure that I actually write Thursday on that as well.
Thank you, folks, for introducing yourselves. Kathleen from Toronto, full Irish. Gary from Dublin, Benjamin. I would get to answer your question or make an attempt later on. Benjamin, who's in Shepherd's Bush. Kelly, I don't recognise Kelly Murphy's name.
Yes,
maybe
no,
from South Africa.
Kelly from South Africa. Wow.
And Lynn, of course, I keep forgetting. Lynn is just down the road in Banbury here, where I grew up, where I used to live. Went to school in Banbury.
Yeah, it's lovely that you're and you're from Queensland as well. What time of day is it for you,
terrific.
It must be a ridiculous time of day for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, just a quick question though. I know a lot of you are subscribed to the channel. It wouldn't, if you're not, do hit that subscribe.
Click it.
Just click it and hit the little bell. Because we're heading towards 38,000 subscribers now.
Yeah.
More on that anon. It sounds like a lot, but in YouTube terms, it's not really. And improving our reach and all those kinds of things is a really, really, really good thing. So. As you know, hitting the subscribe button really, really helps. If you're not already,
cost you anything. Doesn't cost you anything. Just click it.
If you're not already a Patreon member, I know the vast majority of you that have joined us already are. But if you're not, do consider having a look at our Patreon page. The link is down below. Anyway, so it's funny that the very first question that was posted in the post link on the community page on YouTube, well, I might as well go there and actually show the question because it's a bit pertinent, and I'm afraid. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cry for Joy. I haven't seen you there, but Cry for Joy asks, what will Standing with Stones 2 involve? Well, Any of you that were on the Zoom call the other night will know that we've had to do a bit of a U-turn as far as our plans are concerned.
No, let's not say a U-turn. We've done a multiple branch on this.
Yes.
Well, it's decisions that we've made because we're just we're juggling so many different aspects to this. Is it me? I'm sounding very sibilant. I'm turning myself down. Excuse me. Because what was coming up and what was being so problematic for us in terms of what we had previously envisaged for Standing with Stones 2 was that we were trying to weave together this story that was not unweavable, but it was unweavable in terms of making a 90-minute or a 2-hour film. We're talking about a massive project, which it just became a logistical issue. So what we've decided that we're going to do, instead of doing an enormous Standing with Stones 2, we're actually going to go to specific places and we're going to make separate films which, you could regard them all as part of the portfolio of Standing with Stones 2, if you like. So we're going to go to places that we regard as fundamentally important in prehistory and make films about those places. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what it's going to entail moving forward. And we've decided that the first place we're going to make a film about early next year is Carnac. Wish us luck.
A slightly different style to the big film. So it'll probably, for the most part, involve both of us. So there'll be sort of on-screen banter, but the idea will be to do honour to the monuments or the historical place or ancient monument, whatever it is we visit. Very briefly, I mean, if just a bit of back thing. As far as raising money to do a big film, we've realised that our reach isn't big enough yet in order to appeal to that many people. And we assumed also that because we'd done it before, we could do it again. But now it's a completely different context. And back then, when we did the original one, we weren't beholden to no one. It was just a question of making the film and getting on with it. This time, we've got the Prehistory Guys. And it absolutely came down to remembering all the work that was involved. We've suddenly realised we couldn't do Prehistory Guys and make a big film at the same time. It's as simple as that.
So we would have to disappear off the radar for 2 years, probably. That isn't something that we had really factored in before. But I mean, as Mike said, with the first one, when we didn't have anybody to answer to, plus the fact that we were 20 years younger, and trust me, that makes a difference. When you're climbing out of a tent at 5 o'clock in the morning, hoping for a sunrise, do you know what? Don't need that. We want to do good stuff, but we don't want to stop doing what we're doing. If somebody comes along with £1 million, if somebody comes along with £500,000 and says, "Here you are, we really want you to do this," then we'll do it, because a lot of it is, as Mike said, it's about that reach, and if you look at the genuine numbers when it comes to raising money, that the amount of people who that they see your thing saying you're trying to raise money, well, it's like 1% to 5% of people who actually click on it because they're interested, and out of the people that click on it because they're interested, it's only about another 1 to 5% of those who actually say, "Yeah, all right, I'll give you some money," which means that to raise the sort of money we need to make the film properly, we need to be reaching millions of people, and we're just we're a kind of whilst there's quite a few of you, we need millions, not tens of thousands, and
Yeah, Yoda's mum is on drugs. You know what? We'll get there, Anatolia.
We will,
and all that entails. Yes, I mean it opens the field up wonderfully. Just choosing places and everything's on the cards. It's just that with Carnac, it seemed for us to be a kind of elephant in the room, that we know it's there and we know it's extraordinary, but neither Rupert or I have really investigated there. Not just the monument, not just the alignments, not just the Carnac alignments, but also the whole complex of the biggest menhirs ever and those colossal tumuli and tombs. Spanning usage over thousands of years. So, we're going on a genuine find out mission. That will be it. And you'll be with us and finding out as we go. That's the idea.
It is going to be fun. It is going to be fun. But picking up on the Anatolia thing, interesting thing there is, we've had so many people say, surely you're going to Göbekli Tepe. And we've always said no previously, because the thing about Göbekli Tepe is that it's so old that it has no bearing whatsoever on the megalithic culture that we're familiar with in Western Europe. It literally no connection whatsoever. But because this is more human prehistory in the chunks that we think people would be interested in seeing, that it has opened up different things. So we will go to Göbekli Tepe, we will go to Catalhoyuk, various other tepes, but we will. It's going to be fun. We've got to do it before we get too old and crusty.
Well, I think Genix has the correct idea, because we were talking about this earlier, weren't we? Clickbait. Naked Carnac might generate 1 million views, I think. You're not kidding.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's a shocking thing, isn't it? That
it depends rather who or what it is you want to be naked. As I say, we're 20 years older than we were.
Yeah, there was a time when we were
there was a time, maybe.
But yeah.
Anyway, let's not get carnal Carnac. Yes. Listen, we could get bogged down here. I'm going to move on. There's just one. Let me get rid of that. And Yoda's mum is on drugs. What are you like?
Yeah, we love these prehistoric questions.
Hold on a second. Oh, there you are. Seriously, let's get this over with.
Yes. Yeah, because he's not going to be thanking you, is he?
No. Say hello to the nice people. You've been requested. I think that was a sort of vague request for the appearance of the dog.
Yes.
Do you want to go back to sleep now?
Don't let the side down.
Little fella. Off you go now. Bye-bye. Dear. Right. Onward. That's it. Enough. Some serious questions and some great questions coming up. So let's get on with that.
No, Sibylla, no, it doesn't.
What?
Sibylla, she said it sounds like the kind of naked fireman calendar kind of thing.
Gee, we were discussing earlier the kind of thumbnail we should be putting up in future to maybe, but we'd be shoved off YouTube. I'm going to put up a question.
Yeah, rightly so. Yeah.
To silly, my Ponzi actor master. Oh, thank you, David. Yeah, I could tell a story about theatre days, but I won't. Let's have a question. Dennis Parker. Was it from New Zealand? Is it? No, what am I? Newfoundland. I beg his pardon.
Yeah.
So Dennis asks, we know that ancient farming took place on the island of Barra and other islands off western Scotland. What grains and vegetables were grown, and how and from whom were the seeds attained? We can only have a vague sort of educated guess at this, and only answer really sort of half of the question. It's not something actually either of us knew anything about really at all to begin with. So thank you for alerting us to
some research just because of your question.
I think Barra is a very interesting place to look in terms of prehistory. It's so rich in all sorts of ways, Iron Age stuff on top of Bronze Age stuff on top of Neolithic stuff. It's amazing, and the way it's been preserved in the coastal areas.
For those of you who might not know, because some of you're watching from all over the world, and so I don't know how familiar you may be with the Scottish Isles, but on off the western coast of Scotland, you've got a chain of islands coming down, the Hebrides, Outer Hebrides, and it's a number of islands going down in a chain, basically. And you've got Lewis and Harris, and what have you got down underneath that? You've got North Uist and Benbecula and South Uist and Barra. Barra is tiny.
But it's very
and a few other small ones.
Yeah.
But it is in a chain. So it is perfectly reasonable to say that anything that was going on one of those islands will have been going on the others, because they're a short boat ride between each one, even for them back in the day.
So we know that ancient farming took place on the island of Barra. Probably knew, but to be honest, had forgotten. But the reason that we know, I have it that we know it from Time Team discovering plough marks in an area underneath the sand on this coastal area that was obviously farming land at the time, but has now sort of been cut back and eroded by the wind and the waves. But that. Now, I don't know exactly what the date is, and I think probably we're talking about Middle Bronze Age here. But as far as what grain they may have been planting, certainly I don't have a clue about vegetables. But as far as grains are concerned, an educated guess is a grain called beer, B-E-R-E, which is a kind of barley, not a wheat. It's a barley, six-eared barley, which may or may not have been brought over from Scandinavia, only because in the etymology of beer comes from, I think, Norwegian or something like that. Anyway, but then we'd be talking about spoken word and all the rest of it. So who knows where the words originated, or which language filtered through. But the interesting thing is, it is not a widely cultivated grain nowadays. But it seems that it's trying to be reintroduced as a viable crop, and the very few places that still have this crop are on Orkney and some places down the west coast, and on Barra. Some other places in the Hebrides and on Barra. And as an educated guess, if this grain is still being cultivated in these places that we know have very ancient roots, if you'll forgive the slight pun, then my guess is that that extends way back in time, and the cultivation of that grain has persevered through time.
Indeed. Do you know what? I'm going to bigger up. Just because we can.
What?
Those of you who... tangled. You may have seen the interview that we did with Alice Roberts, who was wonderful. If you haven't seen it, she was an absolute joy to talk to. But this book of hers, Tamed, 10 Species That Changed Our World, There's a couple of chapters in here where she talks about some of the cereal crops, wheat and rice, and I can't remember offhand. But she talks about potatoes as well. She talks about and maize, but cattle and horses, and it's a fabulous book. And she's gone into such a wealth of research to describe and explain how these things were brought from here to here to here to here. It's genuinely a wonderful book. I can't recommend it highly enough.
Oh, thank you, Niels. Yes, Machair, Machair is the word we're looking for, and that's what I was trying to remember, the particular
well done.
Fertile coastal grassy plain area. Yeah, thank you, Niels. Yes. Also, in passing, while we were mentioning, farming on the Hebrides, we recently did an interview for Alison Sheridan and the Callanish Visitor Centre. One of the Callanish conversations we've been recording with Jan.
Jan
Hambley.
You're talking about Joe?
Joe Hambley, sorry. Joe Hambley, who's been working with the Scape project, and the recent scans they've done around the fields of Callanish have revealed very ancient, going back to, pre the Stones, actually, so early Neolithic, and also post the Stones, strange enough, but field boundaries in the fields roundabout. So it just, it makes the stones not seem quite so lonely as they seem now, to know that the fields around them were being tilled and utilised in that way. So I don't know if there's a link between, or that a link could be established between agriculture on Barra and agriculture happening on Lewis, which is quite a way up the archipelago there. But
something that is quite interesting up there, and I've got to be honest, I haven't looked into the specifics of the geology in the Western Isles, but in fact we've got another question later on about sea levels and associated things, but it's the fact that we know, for example, that on taking Orkney as an example, I know that's not one of the Western Isles, but just west coast of Orkney, they know that, or they've found a stone circle, which is pretty much the size of the Ring of Brodgar, and it's 300 meters out to sea. So we know that sea levels at the time were lower, and the landscape would have been quite different. And if you apply that to the Western Isles, the fact that you're looking at islands that are just separated by a very small jaunt in a boat now, it's quite possible that you could have done it at low tide on foot back in the day. Or maybe it was worked land a lot more. Don't know. Be worth looking into, really. But certainly the sea level would have been different. So.
Yeah, I've made a note to look at the Machair landscape and see if there's
I've just
talking points.
I've just opened a link on it to investigate later, so that I didn't forget. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Looks like my field.
Oh, definitely climate change before climate change. Yeah. However, I think that's all the wisdom that we can pour on this question for the moment, if you can call it that. But thanks for the question, because it sort of opened up another little door into something. Maybe Prehistory Guys go to Barra.
Yeah,
One day.
Why not? Martin says Macri Moor. Is Macri Moor a Machair landscape?
More than likely.
Yeah. Is that what you meant, Martin?
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to.
Anyway, cool.
Yeah. Move on. Let's see. That's Dennis. No, wrong one. Sorry, Jimmy. That's a bit early. There we go. Finger trouble. Okay. Bent Cop.
It's Kelly. Hi, Kelly.
Yeah. Will we ever do videos or programs about hill forts and the connection between them? For example, Sisbury Ring supplying flint to the UK. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, obviously, in our early filming, we tend to go for things that are easily filmable, that render well from a visual point of view. And despite their drama, when you're there on a good hill fort, in the present, it's very difficult to render them interesting from a visual point of view. That's not to say that there isn't anything interesting to talk about, and of course, latterly, that's what we would focus on. So I see no reason why we shouldn't do that in the future.
No. I mean, the honest truth is, Kelly, the reason that we haven't done it up till now, I say up till now as if we're about to, but the reason we haven't done it previously is purely and simply because as soon as you start talking about hill forts, you're nudging into the Iron Age and history, and so the fact that many of the hill forts are actually based on earlier, say, Bronze Age and even Neolithic settlements in some cases. That would be an interesting thing to unravel. So yeah, definitely never say never. I think it's quite possible that some of them, particularly in the south, I mean, there's some of them I think have really good stories to tell. So yeah, quite possible. Actually,
a couple of years ago, we did a little experiment. And if you go to Patreon, if you're a member on Patreon, if you dig down through the podcasts, we did an experiment, sort of doing an audio thing when we went up to Crickley Hill, which
so we did,
which is an Iron Age fort, actually.
I wondered where you were going for a minute, but yeah.
No, we went up to Crickley Hill, which is the last habitation there was Iron Age. But that was built
Michael sprung that on me completely.
Yeah, I do that from time to time, don't I?
Yeah. I thought we were going for a walkabout, and you just got out recording equipment.
yeah. But we did an audio walkabout on Crickley Hill. Crickley Hill is famous for having been one of the first two recorded established as battles having taken place on them in the Neolithic because of the
I'd call it more of a skirmish myself, but they do call it a battle, don't they?
From the arrows scatter. Well, I think the fact that it was a deliberate assault on a settlement, I think that sort of is a bit more than a skirmish.
I still call it a skirmish.
No.
It's not big enough to be a battle.
It's a decisive move. This one was not. Anyway, that said, so if you have not heard it, I'm not sure it was entirely successful. It was very interesting to do. We must go back up there sometime.
I'd never been there before.
It really is one of my favourite places, actually, because
it's a fabulous spot.
Oh man, I mean, for one thing, the view is extraordinary, and the delving back down through the years, because they've reconstructed part of the Iron Age fort up there, and the prehistory is just amazing. That site has been dug over for years and years and years, and I forget the name of the lead archaeologist.
Yeah. No, he's long dead.
But the paper, I don't know. Don't think he is dead. But the paper is the
original
yet to
architect.
come off.
I think you'll find he was
the original.
Is.
Thank you so much. All right. But there's a lot written about Crickley Hill. It's worthwhile digging out because it's fascinating. So say I. Right. Let me move along. Now, Jimmy. Now's your turn. Jimmy Lawley.
Yeah.
What is our view on the slavery aspect of Neolithic construction? Do you think it was all voluntary, or were slaves involved, or a mixture of the two? It's not a question that we ask ourselves, is it, Rupert?
No.
So it's not something that's been churning over in our brains. Yeah.
And I don't think you need to bring slavery into the equation, to be honest. There are so many reasons why any of the sites would have been constructed by people who were just, whether it was an egalitarian society and people were doing this big project together, um, or well, you can think of any social structure really, but there's no evidence to say there was any slavery involved. And the other thing about slavery is that to have a workforce, so you're not talking about maybe you've gone and dealt with a neighbouring village who you didn't like, and you've killed all the blokes, and you've dragged some women back to the village. Oh, it looks like my cat's decided to go. He's going to want me to open that door. But you would only have a very small number of slaves if you'd taken slaves. And what you're talking about is having a workforce of slaves, and that requires big organized communities, civilization. So if you're talking about British megalithic, and even the big henges, whether they're megalithic or not, if you're talking about those, then no, I don't think that we had anything of a sufficient scale to enable that level of slavery, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, because there is no evidence whatsoever, apart from the fact that people moved stones about, but that in itself is not really evidence. If there was something, to make it a talking point, then probably we could go there. But I don't know what you could look for that would possibly tell you one way or another. So it's entirely speculative, and I'm not sure it sort of gets us anywhere.
One of the big problems we have in Britain is that the buildings that they used at the time were timber. Yeah. So there's nothing left to see. Now, if you take by contrast, it's interesting, something that's you might have seen it, something that's only come up in the news today, that they've published about a discovery that was made in Pompeii, where they have found a slave room, if you like, and it's part of they've been excavating this particular house. Do you call it a house? It's enormous. They found a chariot there. They've found the stables. They've excavated the horses that were killed there when in the eruption. And so they've excavated all aspects of this house, and they've finally found this room that there's not really any question about it. It was a smallish room that housed 3 people, and with the other accoutrements that are in there, including stores, they had 3 beds in there, and the other stores and parts of the horses' accoutrement, bit of chariot, that sort of thing. That the interpretation is that this is just where the slaves lived, and this was 3 slaves in a single room. Now, if we did have anything like that in Britain, then it would have been in a timber structure, and there wouldn't be anything left for us to find anyway. But comparing that to the scale of a Roman or even Greco-Roman, whichever aspect of that history you want to look at, that I don't think we had that sort of the scale of society to enable that level of slavery.
Just to,
that's all I can say, really.
Just to backtrack slightly, Silas von Greenback says, not really forts, though, are they? I presume you're referring to Iron Age hill forts. Well, actually, they were. They are, defensive structures. And if you go to Crickley Hill, they've actually reconstructed the timber element, or part of the timber. You could legitimately call them battlements.
Yes.
Because they are
I think,
built as strongholds.
If you, what's going to be the best thing to search for? If you just looked out Roman timber fortifications, for example, because the structure, the style and the methods of building would have been the same. We were making in Britain. We had palisaded enclosures going back, into the Neolithic.
You mean causewayed
so
enclosures?
I meant palisaded enclosures,
You meant
causewayed
palisaded
enclosures as well. Yeah,
of course. Sorry,
I'm talking about because with the palisaded enclosures, it's only a small step from a palisaded enclosure to a timber fortress. And so if you look at the Roman versions, then it'll give you an idea of any intermediate stage you care to think of. These are phenomenally sophisticated timber structures. So there's there's nothing crude about them really.
Yeah. Your cat needs to go out. Apparently, Pat says your cat definitely wants out. And
hold on 1 second. I need to unplug.
And then there's a request for you to get on the drums.
I'm sorry, I'm not. See you later.
Animals. No, he's not going to give us a tune. He's not going to rock out. Apparently, the other mystery is why your camera's out of focus. Here's the mystery of actually.
Comment.
Yeah,
it's a frustration that, and you say about my side camera, right? When my side camera is actually, it's a proper 4K job that we use for recording. I can't use it for a live camera. It's just not practical. And the problem that we have right now is that for whatever reason, the network down here is rubbish. And fingers crossed, they are coming on Saturday to install fibre optic. When they do that, then everything should be crystal clear in my world.
When they do that, we're going to have to get you a birthday present and get you a new webcam.
Well,
because then it's another conversation.
We do. Rupert's drums are the biggest mystery on this channel. Well, I don't know why you think they're a mystery, unless you mean what are they? It's a Millennium 850.
Here we go.
If that's what you want to know.
Is on drugs. Are you in the countryside? Is he in the countryside? Is he in the countryside? There is no more place more countryside than what he is. To be
my
frank.
nearest neighbour is a quarter of a mile away. If you want me to give you some context, and I'm just north of the Pyrenees, and so yes, I've just got fields and forests all around me, and very, very few people.
Quickly answer another tech question. No, it's not another Lumix. Yours is a Canon. Mine's a Lumix. This is a
mine is a 1DX Mark II.
Mine's a Lumix GX8 performing its duties up here very well indeed. What are we doing getting into this? No, move on before we get silly.
Ringo Soskin. All hail Ringo.
Did we answer that, Jimmy? I think, as best we can anyway. Right, that's James. Hope everybody can read that, but even so, I'll read it out to you. James says, we often discuss how Chalcolithic Bronze Age people interacted with and sometimes renovated a lot of the monuments long after the original Neolithic construction. But all Druids aside, what about how Iron Age people interacted with them? Is there much known about that? I know that hilltop enclosures are sometimes situated in what were once Neolithic sites, but other than that, ... Yeah, it's a lovely talking point, isn't it?
It's huge, actually. It's huge, and the thing is that there are so many different aspects of human psychology that you can take into account when you're having this sort of conversation. I may have mentioned this before, but I think it's something in history that it warrants repeating because it puts a complexion or a perspective on the prehistoric things that we try to make sense of. And it was something that struck me when I went to Rome years ago, and I was walking through the Forum. If any of you have been to Rome, you walk down into the Roman ruins. So you're walking down in the Forum where they had the market and everything else down there. And 16 feet over your head on this side are the Renaissance churches. And so you're looking at that 16 feet of earth that was excavated to uncover the Forum, because it's that level up there that's where people were living only a few hundred years ago, and in fact where they're still living today. So all that level of soil is what accumulated over 1,500 years. Now, the thing that got me was, well, okay, what happened then when
Bye,
people
David.
abandoned?
Thanks for being here.
Hi, Kevin. When people abandoned that part of town, how were people relating to it as it disappeared into the earth? You've got the earth growing up, so it's over the doorstep. Now it's halfway up the door. Now the windows are covered. Why did homeless people? Why didn't people take up residence, keep it clean? No, they let an entire side of town just disappear. Why? And it's impossible to make any real sense of it. There could be superstition involved, that you don't go into that place for whatever Freddy Krueger story you want to make up. But if you apply that we know that happened. So if you apply those possibilities to things in prehistory, that why did people stop using these temples? Well, temples, I just said that word just came out of my mouth. Tombs, whatever.
Credibility blown.
Whatever else. People stopped using them. It could have been because they didn't have any meaning for them. There's all sorts of reasons. But of course, another important point to chuck in there is that we have to stop, in our view, we have to stop using these labels as if, the Neolithic into the Bronze Age, as if something suddenly happened and everything changed. No, it didn't. There was a transition that took hundreds of years. And so you in our heads, if somebody says, "Oh, that's Neolithic," and "Oh, that's Bronze Age," well, in our heads, they're separated by these gulfs of time. When if you've got, just because of the labels that we make, you've got something that's late Neolithic and something that's early Bronze Age, and just depending on where you've put your marker, they might be separated by 50 years. The demarcation is silly. And so, the truth is, we don't know.
We can't know how people in the Iron Age looked back and looked at the monuments that they saw, or Bronze Age people looked back, saw the monuments that they saw. But one thing you can be absolutely and completely certain about is that they had a story about them. And if we accept that the monuments belong to an age, where the original intent, the idea of the original intent has been lost, as we experience ourselves. This is why pretty much we're the Prehistory Guys. We do this because it's an incredible mystery. And we're so conscious of how people make up stories about the things they see and can't explain. But people in the past are no different. They've been doing exactly the same thing. Viz the fact, that built Bronze Age, I said it, to honour cursus monuments. Cursus monuments, I said that as well. But you know what I mean. Yeah. And thereby confusing what a cursus is, because two things that happened 1,000, 2,000 years apart, the building of a cursus and the planting of a barrow upon it, get compressed in our view and suddenly we're thinking, oh, the curses must be a religious monument because it's got barrows on it. No, it's because
yeah, silly. And again, it's an example that we've used before. But Mike, I'm having a senior moment. What's the name of the recumbent circle that we went to a couple of years back? Not Naveri, what was it called?
Tom Naveri. Tom Naveri.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tom Naveri. Now, the thing about that is it's a well done. The thing about that is it's Neolithic.
Yes.
But the last burial on that was 1635 or something.
Yeah.
You know.
And a couple of hundred yards away,
it was meaningful to them. They buried somebody there.
Yeah.
So you know, what can you say? People do funny things with places that they don't fully understand. You know, we make stories up. It's part of being human, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's all we can say. They would have had a story, but we don't know what it was. And they honoured them in their own ways that fit with the story. Yeah. You can, I mean, and the stories would have been detailed. They'd have built a whole mythology around it, you know, without anything to contradict what the you know the great tale that somebody made up or thought they heard from somebody else. You know. Stories are powerful things.
Just picking up a couple of comments there. Candide said, "Is it not a copper-only age?" Well, the Chalcolithic, I mean, it's that transition, you know, into the Bronze Age. So, it's a transition, and you know that lasted. Depending on your view and depending which research you want to read, I mean, it certainly lasted hundreds of years.
Yeah. So Martin asks, is the Chalcolithic a short period between the Neolithic and Bronze Age? Yeah, pretty much, but it's not helpful to think of it in those terms, really, is it? I guess it's just copper came before bronze, and then
and people figured that if you put a bit of tin in your copper and Bob's your uncle. Yes.
Yeah. So we lost
Martin
a lot of
said Tom Naveri came into use again in the 1400s to 1600s AD.
There you go.
What was it used for, Martin? Do you know? Because that's I don't know. I just knew that there was a burial there, a modern burial comparatively. Humans have always repurposed. Yes, LC, that's so true. No, we should be doing more of it now, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
We don't learn.
Address Candide's question, though, no, it wouldn't have been a copper age only. They'd have still been using flint. They still would have been using stone.
Okay, that wasn't how I interpreted the question.
Well, that's how I'm giving that. You know, I'm answering the other possible question. Okay. You see what I mean? Yeah. The use of copper would have actually died out because copper would have been smelted down to use to make better implements. But the same doesn't pertain for stone and flint. Flint is still cheap and still razor sharp and still doing the job well into the Iron Age.
Yeah, you wouldn't have stopped using it. In fact, do you know what? Something that niggles me, and there's not very much research that you can do on this because there'd be nothing to show for it. But I'm really fascinated by prehistoric use of tin because nothing would be left in the archaeological, well, virtually nothing would be left in the archaeological record. You know, certainly if you made yourself a tin plate, say, well, you know, we know what tin cans were like for any of us who remember what tin cans were like before they were making them out of aluminium, that they just rusted to nothing in no time at all. So back, you know, going back, we don't know how long, you know, at what period did man first realize that you could smelt tin from rocks? I mean, we have no idea how old that practice would have originated. What we do know is that they found tin ingots that the chemical analysis has shown that the tin ingots definitely came from Cornwall, and these ingots were found in Israel, some in Greece, some various places in the Mediterranean. Don't remember the others offhand. But tin ingots that came from Britain. So people were coming to Britain, and this is from before the British Bronze Age. So people were coming to Britain to buy tin. I say buy because we don't know what the exchange was, but they were coming to Britain to buy our tin, and we were making ingots that they were buying. Now, that says to me, well, okay, clearly we were making things out of tin, and there's nothing left to show for it because, same as Mike just said about the copper, that if you had anything made of copper, as soon as bronze became a thing, then you'd take your copper stuff to the smithy and say, can you melt this down and stick some tin in it, please? Because it would have just made better tools. The same would apply to anything that you might have had that was made of tin. So we have no idea what tin implements they may have been using, plates or jewelry or what have you. They must have been making stuff from tin, but we have nothing to show for it. I find that profoundly fascinating.
Apparently, Rupert, the debate over whether Iron Age hill forts are really forts or not rests on whether you're going to turn around and perform an improvised drum solo on your electronic percussion. So says Silas, who is a reasonable man by his own account.
Oh, well, yeah, we'll do that at some
next
point.
Time, I'll tell you what, next time when we go live, you will be at the drums going for it, all right?
Well, yeah,
in fact, you'll be able to do that because you can hear the music at the beginning, can't you? In fact, why don't you do the music instead of... You see what I mean? Right at the beginning.
Could do that. It's not very long, is it? It's not very long.
No, but you could continue and improvise and lift our spirits, take us off into the stratosphere with your...
I wonder how the speakers would...
percussion skills. Slight digression.
A slight digression. Hang on, I need to pick up on a couple of comments here. Stu,
yes.
Stu says tin doesn't rust, tin-plated steel rust. Now that's an interesting thing. Okay, you know more than I do. Okay, well that makes it even more interesting then, doesn't it? Because we have not got not a single one example of a tin artifact
doesn't rust. Wow.
From prehistory.
Yeah.
So you have to ask the question why, if you're right on that, Stu. Because you would have thought there would have been something left. But that's the point, really, that we have got tin ingots from Cornwall, but no signs of any tin stuff other than the ingots. So what's that about?
And all, and
Cozy
just
Pal
that...
Soskin, do you know Cozy Pal? Yeah, he was all right. He
hit them hard, didn't he? Hit them hard, did Cozy.
He did hit them hard, yeah. Ringo was better than Cozy, but Ringo never showed off. Ringo was a good drummer, sat in the pocket all the time. Gavin Harrison, he's your man.
Okay. Nigel Sadler. BP, BC, BCEAD, CE, which to use and when? He's slipping a question in there. Should we not invite you, Nigel, to write that one down, and we could briefly...
I'll answer that in a nutshell.
BC, okay, go on, go for it. Yeah,
BC every time, because the thing about BC is that you know exactly what you're talking about, because we all know that, okay, it's 2021. You say 2,000 years BC, then you know exactly how long ago that is. As soon as you start doing BP, then you're doing
feast.
More calculations. BCE, before the Christian era, I just find that
common era.
I accept it. Common era. Okay. Yeah. For the common era, it's still the same thing. So it's pedantry for me. I just become a grumpy old man, you know. It's a bit like political correctness gone mad. And AD, well, you know, we don't need to say AD, do we? Because the calendar is based on that anyway. 2021, you don't need to say AD. We know what it is. So yeah, that's me. It's BC, or it's just what it is. That's my grump done.
You sure? Can we move on now? Yeah. Sure. Anything else you want to get
Before
off the
or after
chest?
COVID, Pavley? Yeah,
right. Right. Okay. So thank you, James. Good one. Yeah. Let's. Right. Oh, one from Rita Lewis. I haven't seen you here in the chat tonight. Hope you're here. So, what side do we come down on with new discoveries indicating the out of Africa scenario might be wrong? Interesting. We've sort of shied away a little bit from discussing, you know, anthropology questions, haven't we? And human journey questions. But
yeah,
you
we
know,
do, because
it's a kind of good one.
Yeah, because it's just because they go back a little bit far. If you're talking about anthropology, as opposed to, you know, sometimes we like, you know, when they found the Denisovan artifacts, for example, you know, I mean, that was exciting because it's hominin made artifacts and they're not humans. That's exciting, but the more recent research, where you're saying that the indicating the out of Africa scenario might be wrong, that's a bit of a red herring in itself, because it's not that the out of Africa scenario might be wrong, it's that it's not the whole picture. It's just not the whole story. We do still know that there were these, basically 3 distinct waves coming out of Africa. They're actually refining that to, I think they're suggesting that it might be 4 waves now. But what's complicated this is some more recent research that has shown that there was a move there was a huge move from East Africa to West Africa. And then after that move, it was that homogenized the whole of Africa. And this is, I think it's 60,000 years ago, I think. And then you had another wave from there. So we've got this, the wave that has been said to have populated the entire world of modern humans anyway, is 60 to 70,000 years ago. We don't know exactly. So you can take that as the same wave, that Africa became homogenized and then people migrated from there. What threw the spanner in the works a few years ago, in fact, I say a few years ago, I think the papers were only published 2 years ago, but it was that they found in Greece, they found a modern human from way earlier. And so, you know, the implication being that actually they'd come out of Africa before that, but it had been an unsuccessful migration, if you like, that people had left and they'd died, and then it was another wave after that. So the problem we have with so many of these little details is that we find something that doesn't fit, and people say, oh, well, it's wrong then. When it's not that it's wrong, it's just that it's so much more complicated than we thought. You know, I mean, I think if you go into the aspect of, you know, what we've been unraveling in with the human genome, and the fact that we know that there are still ghost species within the human genome, you know, so we know about Neanderthals in our genome, we know about Denisovans in our genome, but we know that there are another 7, is it? I don't remember off the top of my head. It's about another 7 present in our genomes that we know they're there, but we have no idea who they were or where they came from. And it's something that, you know, you just know with the way the technology is moving that we are going to learn all these things. it will be coming out as the technology gets more and more refined, and more human remains are examined from old museum and university collections. You are waving a finger.
Yeah, I just have to give a shout out to Andy McGeechan, who's just
Andy,
bought
thank
us
you.
a super sticker for £3. Bless you, kind
Thank
sir.
you very,
So
very
much
much.
appreciated. Yay. Cool.
Yes.
Actually, there's something we must mention, actually, when we've dealt with this. I must, while we're on the air, it's silly not to.
Yeah,
something I just thought of. Anyway, carry on.
Yes.
Carry on.
No, that was it really. I find the fact that we've got these ghost species in our genome, I find that so exciting. Because if you think, you only have to go back, 20 years? Maybe a little bit more than 20 years, but not very far, when we had this thing of it's only Homo sapiens. Every other hominid species just disappeared. We didn't even talk about other hominid species, really. We talked about our ancestors, species, but we didn't say, you look, for example, just because of the way evolution works, you look how many different species of apes or monkeys there are around the place, and you think, well, there must have been loads of different hominids. There must have been, but we had no evidence for it. And then gradually we started finding, because of the tech, we started finding all these different hominid and hominin species. And the fact that we're now looking at 8 or 9 hominin species that that were all one way or another interbreeding. Is fantastic. The information that the stuff that we are going to be learning in the coming years is just going to be awesome.
And don't forget, we had Heidelbergensis in Sussex 450,000 years ago. So it is. It's complicated going back a long way. Sorry, you're looking. Yeah.
It's just Sibylla says, do you actually believe in the dating of the Denisovan artifacts? I don't see why not, Sibylla. I mean, they've dated them because of the substrate where they were finding them. There's not really any question that they are Denisovan of Denisovan manufacture. Yes, you're waving.
I just thought, it inspired me thinking of Heidelbergensis and Neanderthals. We must, one of our Prehistory Guys go-to films must be Prehistory Guys Go to Cresswell Crags.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, okay.
We could make that a goodie.
We could.
Sorry, moving on.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll throw that back at you. Okay, Sibylla. She said because the bracelet seems incredibly sophisticated technically, but does it? I agree with you, but I think it's this this presumption that we've always had that humans are or were inherently unsophisticated for a very long time, and I really
good
question
point.
that.
Very good. Yeah, me too.
I wish I could remember the name of the guy who did the research, but I went to a lecture about 20 years ago. I went to a lecture by a guy who his entire life, professional life, was spent in the Sahara Desert, where he was finding lenses. And I'm not kidding. What are you laughing about?
Michael has the finger of doom.
This guy's research was all about these lenses that he was finding that were clearly prehistoric. From where he was finding them, they were clearly prehistoric, and they were only about this big. These tiny little glass lenses, but they were. There's no question that they were deliberately engineered, if that's the right word to use, little glass lenses. Now, no idea who made them, just absolutely no idea at all. But when you start looking into the history of human artifacts, you look at things like dentist drills. These tiny drills, they're so thin, and they're made out of stone. You think, well, what tools did they use to make them apart from anything else? But these were used for dentistry, and they're old, and I do question the
it's much more recent, but the same thing, Rupert. Those tiny beads for the scabbard out of bush barrow. The
gold pins.
That's what I meant. The gold pins, out of there, taken on their own, you'd have said, nah, it couldn't possibly have made that back then. But there they are. There they are in the bush barrow tomb, and you can look at them under a microscope in Wiltshire Museum if you're passing.
Yeah, yeah. I do. It's the fact that, do you know what? I'm going to have another senior moment.
I thought you were going to have going to have another rant there for a moment. Hold on to your hats, folks.
There's another group that they're on Patreon actually. I'm pretty sure they have a YouTube channel as well, and I'll see if I can find the name of them and put it on Patreon. But they're called How Did They Do That or something like that. And it's a group. They're actually Russian based, but what they do is they take stuff from prehistory, and the things that people say, oh, must have been aliens that did that. So they go, well, here you go. Here's how it's done, and so, for example, one of the artifacts that came out of, it might have been Tutankhamun's tomb, one of the big Egyptian royal tombs anyway, is a pot in the shape of a bird, and it's all made from one single piece of stone. But it's like a teapot kind of thing. It's completely hollowed out. And the whole thing of how did they do that? Well, they got a master. It's Sibylla. You should do this. They got a master stoneworker to make a replica of it.
Scientists Against Myths, apparently. Is that it?
Well done. Thank you so much. Who said
Chubby?
That?
Chubby was that. Chubby Moth.
Thank you, Chubby. And it took her 10 months to do this thing. And it really makes the point that one of our biggest failings now is that we look at stuff and if we can't see either how it would be manufactured, or if we can't see that you could do it in a few days, then we think, well, it's kind of impossible. The fact that somebody would have spent 10 months or a year or 5 years making something just for the sake of its inherent beauty or whatever, that's something that culturally we've lost. But they had a lot of time on their hands. They didn't watch telly in the evening.
And on that, I'm going to move along.
Yes, Chubby's just said exactly that. Yeah, the no TV era, exactly that.
Correct. Yeah. Beautiful. Badger Pa. Oh, I do beg pardon. Do we have a real name for Badger? We do, don't we?
We do. I'm sorry, Badger. Tell us again. Our memories are so shocking.
We're rubbish. We are rubbish.
We should have a big list, shouldn't we? We should have a big chart on the wall.
You folks, you have the advantage on us. You know what we look like. Almost know where we live, really. Anyway, have you gentlemen noticed the news of the oldest known human footprints in North America, discovered at White Sands National Park in New Mexico as old as 23,000 years? The 15,000 Club, 15,000?
She's talking about the people who insist that everything's 15,000 years old.
Oh, the 15,000 Club that sticks to the story that people only arrived in North America less than 15,000 years ago are not happy. The popular narrative is people only arrived less than 15,000 years ago and exterminated all of the large animals as they made their way to the tip of South America. And apologies, I snipped a bit out of your question there, Badger, so it would fit on the screen and was still readable. Apologies.
Yeah.
But the essence is
we do know about the footprints at White Sands. And actually, we did a program about that.
I did a prehistory
down there
flash about
somewhere
them.
in the
Yeah,
list.
yeah.
It was a newsflash somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In actual fact, there have been a number of finds coming out in the last couple of years, and I'm pretty sure that there was some stuff found in a cave. That might have been New Mexico as well. That they're saying could be over 30,000 years old. So they're certainly pushing things back a lot now. And I think it's, one of my personal heroes, Bruce Bradley, who we interviewed a couple of years back. Bruce's work on the Solutrean hypothesis, saying that people could have come across the Atlantic because you have these clear cultural connections in a stone culture, the style of tool making. And the point that Bruce made so very eloquently is that if you had excavated these assemblages anywhere else in the world, then people would have just said, "Oh, look, the Solutreans came here." But just because they're on the other side of the Atlantic, everybody says, "No, that's not possible." When that's just a madness, because we know historically, we know that the Polynesians used to travel thousands of miles across open ocean in wood canoes. We know that they did that. So the notion that they couldn't have done it in prehistory, to me, is utterly silly. But the 15,000 year club, I mean, what makes the 15,000 year thing? And basically, you're talking about Clovis. That the thing is that it was a new stone culture. Their blades were better, and so these people, not just people with better tools, but probably a greater population density, and that's why the megafauna died out around the same time as them kicking off, because they were just capable of killing more stuff all in one go. And let's be honest, when humans, we're horrible when it comes to going out and killing things. We don't learn, do we? We don't learn at all. So I think that the 15,000 club is gonna go, because the evidence is just so solid now that it's only the most stubborn people who refuse to accept it. In fact, it's stuff even older. If you go down into Chile, there was a discovery of human footprint in Chile only last year. And I'm ashamed to say, another senior moment, I can't remember how old it was, but it was a wow moment. It shouldn't be a surprise to us, that there are so many different ways that humans get around the world. And we know that, do you know what? This was a shocker to me, but okay, it's over in Indonesia. But the earliest known ocean-going travel, so people traveling from A to B by boat, is nearly 1 million years ago. And we get worried about people doing it 5,000 years ago, and it's like, no, we know that 900 and something thousand years ago, people were going to these islands in Indonesia. It says everything you need. Just humans can't help themselves. Oh, what's over there then? That somebody sees birds flying in that direction, and that if birds are flying over there, so long as it's not a gull, but if people are seeing birds flying over there, then it must be because there's land there. Birds, other than gulls and albatrosses, birds don't just fly out to open ocean for the hell of it. There must be land, and humans would have seen that and gone to have a look. Why would you not? Yeah. Yeah, Chubby's talking about the Atlantic currents again. Yes, it's do you know what? I saw digressing. We'll be here till midnight. I saw a really interesting show on television only a few nights ago, and it was showing how, I'm lying, It was on YouTube, and it was showing how it is possible to go faster than the wind with a wind-driven craft. And it's just genius use of the wind, and I have no reason to believe that our ancestors who relied on nature for everything would have figured out stuff like that. Yeah,
cool. I hope that satisfies the question. Right. Let's see now.
Thank you, Elsie. You might be right. Yeah.
Question from Pam Bowers. What are the earliest coins to be produced? Were the early tribes of Britain using them before the Roman invasion? She thinks she saw some with a horse figure from Boudicca's time. Rupert, you did a bit of a dive on this, didn't you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, because we did a news flash not that long ago.
Oh yeah,
talking about the coin foundry, a mint, the earliest known mint in China. That was it 2,800 years old? So it's 800 BC.
I think. Yeah.
And these coins, I mean, they're not coins that we'd recognise as coins necessarily. They were called spade coins. We know they were coins.
I think, as we pointed out at the time, they'd make horrible holes in your pockets because
they would make horrible holes in your pockets. They're not comfortable at all.
Sharp, corners.
They were called spade coins, and they were. Now, when you think about it, the only reason that
we call them spade coins. I don't think they called them spade coins, though, did they?
No, they probably didn't. But the only reason we make coins round is because it doesn't hurt you to have a fistful of them if you're lucky enough to have a fistful of them. Where if you've got things that have got all jaggedy edges, then they would have made terrible holes in your fabrics that would have, your textiles that would have cost you quite a bit to make. Anyway, but the oldest, so you've got these coins in China that are 800 BC. And then you've got a succession of later ones that we do know about. So the one that you're probably talking about is the Lydian lion. That was the oldest one that's known in Britain, which is 80 BC. I think that's the Lydian lion. But there's, but certainly 80 BC, they were making bronze coins in Britain. So that's probably what you were talking about there. That one had horses on it, but there was nothing other. That's why the Chinese mint was such a surprise, because all the other coins that we know about in anywhere else really, they're all around that same period. I think the oldest other than that is around this 80 BC. I don't think there's anything much older than that. Am I talking nonsense?
No, I thought you found an interesting list of ancient coins that you sent to me, and I wonder if it's just worth.
You're right, I did.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I did. Hold on a minute. Hold on, because I'm just being a twat. He said diplomatically.
I'll say it is not so.
Bear with me. No. Here it is. Here it is. I've found it. Okay, so this clarifies everything. Okay, so just disregard that moment of utter ignorance, all right? And I'll give you a list here. You've got the Hallerton silver coin. And the Hallerton silver coin is from 211 BC in Rome. It's I love this. Country of origin, Rome, Italy. But it was actually found in Hallerton in England. And it's a silver coin. It's got horses on one side, and that's the head of.
Oh, can you share your screen?
Oh lordy, you really don't want to see my screen. It's an absolute mess. Can I share my screen?
Well, you probably can't. All right. Well, shall I make an attempt? Then
There you go.
Yeah. Hold on a second.
Can you do that? Can you see that? I'm sharing my screen. You should be able to see.
I've got it. I've got it here. I just want to. I've done it. There you go. Haliton silver coin. If you can read it, because it's not big enough for people to be able to.
Okay, so there's a Haliton silver coin. That's what I just read. Stop scrolling. Then this one. Okay, no, go. Okay, next one down. So the Persian Daric.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, so this is the Persian Daric. Okay, and this is 520 to 480 BC, Persian Empire, and it's gold. That's made of gold. Look at that. That's so cool. Then you've got the Aegina sea turtle, 550 BC, Greece. It's a silver coin.
Blooming heck.
That's amazing, isn't it? This next one down. Move past the advert, Mike.
Yeah. I just thought you wanted to see the name. Kashapana.
Kashapana, yeah. Is it not? Yeah, okay. The Kashapana, 600 BC. That's from India, also silver.
Mm-hmm.
Next one down. The Yingwan.
Yeah.
The Yingwan is 600 to 500 BC. That's from China, and that's gold.
Yeah. Still haven't got the round thing going in China, have they? in that one.
Then there's the Ionian Hemiobols.
I should see a doctor.
Know how you pronounce that.
Yeah.
It's 600 to 550 BC. Country of origin, city of Syme in ancient Ionia, modern-day central coast of Turkey. That's another silver coin. Then there you go. That's the Lydian lion, and that has got a lion and could that be a minotaur? It's a bull anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's an alloy of gold and silver, electrum. That is also 600 BC. So there you go.
Lydia.
That's the list.
That's it.
That is the
list
of
anyway.
The oldest known coins. Yeah. And the one that topped all of those was the Chinese mint that they found only last year, which is 800 BC. So it's a couple hundred years older than any of those. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah. We did a thing on the oldest mint. It's a very short piece. One of the flashes, I think. Yes. It's down there in the on the channel. Scroll down through our content. It should be easily findable.
Do you know what? Sorry, I have to pick up on this. Nigel has said it's interesting to see what Rupert has been buying or searching for. The thing is, it's a bit of a red herring because I have no idea what came up on my. That was on my.
No, that's mine.
It there. That wasn't me. That's what he's been looking for.
Yeah. It's telling me I haven't cut my power bill. I don't know what that's all about. Anyway.
Yeah, because I didn't see what your adverts were. I don't want to be incriminated.
No, I didn't see what my adverts were. Yeah, seems to be all about how to cut my power bill. I don't know what people thought that was. Anyway, shall I move on once more?
Yeah. Is there anything else that we needed to pick up on there? Lydian was the best. Yeah, I agree with you. Lydian was the best.
But I think...
hello, sofa loafer. Yeah, late. Never mind. Better late than never.
Yeah.
No, okay.
Next question.
Yeah.
Oh, this is not a question. Yes. I just wanted to shout out, and I think the guy's name is Abdullah, because I looked it on Google. Abdullah sent us a whole list of antiquities from Saudi Arabia, and we're very grateful for them. Thank you, Abdullah.
Material
if
for
you
us
ever
to
get to see this,
digest.
If you're indeed
really kind of you to do that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I just thought
we should report back in due course.
Mention that as a shout out. Here we go. Diorman managed to get one in every month. Thank you so much. So, lightening the mood a bit. Any entertaining story to go with the Q&A entry post picture? And where is it? I'll have to find it and show it just so people...
It's the Great X in Kilmartin Glen.
Yes, it is. Can I find the picture quickly to remind everybody?
Do you want
this is a sort of a quick memory jogger. There it is on the page there. I don't know how many of you actually know where that is and what that is. But thanks for the question, Diorman. Do you know? Well, one of our favourite sort of places.
You didn't have a snake in your camera bag. I didn't have a snake in my camera bag.
No. But Argyle and Butte and Kilmartin Glen.
Yeah.
I thought you were answering the question, field. Rupert. Sorry.
Well, it's a football field.
Well, once you see it as that, it's never you can't unsee it, because apart from that marked stone in the middle, that's right in the middle of this arrangement, which has got cup and ring markings on it. And if you look behind where the camera is now, there's identical posts on the other side. So clearly it was some kind of game involving a big stone in the middle. And can't put it out of my mind now from the last time, because we visited it on the tour. Andy and Kevin will remember.
And it's in Standing with Stones as well. It is
in Standing with Stones, yes.
But it's. I mean, they say that it's a lunar. It's a lunar observatory. That if you stand, either of any of the outlying stones, you could only see two of the ones in the background there. But as Mike said, the same thing behind the camera. And if you stand at any one of those, then the opposite one is completely eclipsed. It's a straight line down each axis of the X. And that's supposed to be for lunar observation. So it goes from one to the other over whatever period of time.
But maybe, forgive our irreverence.
But we think people build these things for all sorts of fancy observation reasons. But the rest of the time, when they're not using it, or if it's cloudy, playing football.
And even if they weren't using it for football at the time they built it, I'm sure we won't be the first to have thought of.
Before Historic Scotland fenced it all off so that people couldn't, that people have been using that for fun and games for the last few thousand years.
Yeah.
No question.
Bless them. Anything else to say about the Great X in Kilmartin Glen?
No.
It's a must visit. And, there's so much to say about Kilmartin Glen. And so much fascinating stuff. Maybe, that should be on the slate for Prehistory Guys go to again.
Yeah, Andy's here. He could tell everybody.
Yeah. Hi, Andy. Thank you, Dorman. Thank you so much. And I think this is the last question of the evening, and which is from Benjamin, who I also know is here and has been watching all night, I think.
Hello, Benjamin.
Flood myths abound in early literature, presumably many to do with the big thawing out about 10,000 years ago. Do we see evidence of this in prehistoric art, artifacts and migration patterns, or is much of it underwater? More broadly, what compelling or even mystifying links do we find between cultures that hitherto were thought to be unconnected?
Wow, it's a wonderful question, and it's a question that we're not going to, but we could talk about it for a long time. We did a program about marine archaeology.
We did. Gosh, it was about podcast number 4 or 5. Is that early, wasn't it?
It's a long
back in 2018.
The thing is that so much stuff we mentioned earlier on about the stone circle off the west coast of Orkney, that's pretty much the size of the Ring of Brodgar, and that's 300 metres out to sea. They're finding sites continuously. Plus, there's so many that have been known about, and they're being excavated all the time. Really, just obviously when diving is good, they don't do it at silly times of year. But also worth showing you this. I bought this only recently, and I haven't had a chance to read it yet. But the précis about it looks pretty good, and this is all about flood myth. And so basically, Patrick Nunn has got flood myths from around the world and collated, archaeological knowledge and what have you, to pull together all these things about, what may or may not have actually been going on. I recommend that. I'll tell you, it's Patrick Nunn, Worlds in Shadow, and it's all about submerged archaeology, basically. It's a wonderful thing, isn't it? When you think that so many cultures around the world do have the flood myth. And something else that I was only reading up, by chance actually, it was a paper that was only published a few days ago, and it's these geologists. They're not archaeologists; they're geologists. And they've been researching the fossil rivers, they call them fossil rivers, in the Sahara Desert. So basically, if you look at the Sahara from satellite imagery, you can see where rivers used to be. And so they have been doing a huge amount of work on dating these and actually doing all sorts of chemical analysis. We know, for example, about the Fertile Crescent. We know that that the Sahara was very verdant in the past. So they were doing the research to find out over what periods of time you had this, when it was lush and the weather conditions were so profoundly different. And they've managed to date these rivers to full flow between 13,000 and 5,000 BC. And what is so staggering, I have no idea how they have calculated this, but they say with absolute certainty that they can tell you that the rainfall at the time when it was at peak was between 55, I think it was, and 88 millimeters per hour. That's monsoon rains.
Insane.
That's monsoon rains
in the Sahara.
The time.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, when I say all the time, that's when it was in season. Now, you only need to look at what's happening today with climate change to think that, well, if you've already got rainfall like that going on, you only need a small change for, you can imagine it would be biblical, the flood that you would get off that. And because of the way humans weave stories, you can quite imagine somebody coming up with Noah's Ark as a fabulous story on the back of that. This is changing the subjects a little bit, but equally fascinating. That we've talked a little bit in the past about cosmic airbursts, where a meteor, a big enough meteor, comes into the atmosphere, but at an angle where it doesn't hit the ground. It just cuts through the atmosphere and then explodes before it hits the ground. And there was a cosmic airburst that they have pinned it down to a point in prehistory, that they reckon that would absolutely have caused the complete destruction of Sodom. They're looking at where biblical myth came from. And the shockwave from that, because it would have been something like 100 Hiroshima bombs or more than that, just this colossal explosion, but without hitting the ground. It would have obliterated Sodom, and the shockwave would easily have reached Jericho. You know, we have this thing about the walls came tumbling down in Jericho, because Jericho is one of the oldest still surviving towns on Earth. Jericho is older than, it's more than 10,000 years old. People still there today. Fantastic. But the fact that you can now, again, tech, that they can analyze and tell you for sure that no, this event actually happened, and so now we've got these biblical myths that it's wonderful when you see where stories are. Because you would think it was God, wouldn't you? If you without the knowledge that we have today, what on earth else would you think it was? God was clearly not happy with you if something came out of the skies and obliterated everything you knew. Yeah, that and rain. Yeah,
and knowing about the way that human beings operate, it wouldn't necessarily need a totally cataclysmic flood, going back to floods, to create a story, to create an enormous myth about it. Nigel just sort of touched upon that. It says the Storegga tsunami, the Storegga slide, probably had a few tales connected to it when it happened. Around about 6,150 BC, whatever it was, and that would have been cataclysmic for the people that, the huge amount of people that it affected. But even smallish local events, if they cause death and destruction and movements of people, and drama, then it has echoes. And, some of the echoes will die out, but sometimes echoes catch and reverberate and grow. So sometimes myths blow things up or out of all proportion, and there's probably no way of us telling how big a cataclysm there really was, or how big a disaster it really was at the time.
Yeah.
Have we got off topic? Or are we still on topic?
No, I think do you know what? It's sufficiently on topic because it's interesting. But there's some comments here. Dakota said like Tunguska, and Pat was thinking of that. And, and Sofa Loafer, airburst happened. Tunguska was a small one. Yeah, and isn't that the crazy thing when you look at stuff that is actually in living memory, and Tunguska is kind of close enough. The way people described Tunguska, if you go back to reports from the day, and you think, yeah, that was a small one, and it does make you think. We have been so lucky. Humanity has been so lucky, and what have we done with our good fortune? We've buggered the planet up on our own. It's like if cosmic influence isn't going to do it, we'll do it ourselves. Yeah, what are we like?
Okay, now say something cheerful.
Say something cheerful. Marine archaeology, because all right, we're still talking about floods. Do you know what? There's wonderful things. If you just search for marine archaeology, because you can even do diving holidays. If you enjoy diving, you can do diving holidays to look at some of the, particularly in the Middle East. There's some pretty astonishing places that you can dive.
Anyway, great. Well, Benjamin, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed the conversation that you sparked off there. Excellent. We made it. Only just, I'm afraid, but glad to see you nonetheless.
Yes.
I'm afraid we've come to the end of a session of answering questions, and we don't look forward to the next time. And don't forget, when the opportunity comes up and Rupert posts up the next holding place for questions for next month. Go there. Oh, don't worry, it's being recorded, so you can. I'm sorry, you're devastated. No, before we go, Rupert, I just wanted to say right at the very beginning, we were saying about how we are replacing the idea of.
Whoa! Thanks, Dakota.
Oh man, sweet, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So good of you. Yes, and talking of which, we talked at the top of the program about we were replacing the idea for practical and financial reasons with the idea of doing more small films over the next few years, really, and and to that end. I just wanted to remind folk that our ability to do that, to go out in the field and make these stuff, is very contingent, on our the support of our Patreon supporters, for which we absolutely thank you, and we need more of you. So if you're been watching tonight and you've enjoyed what we do and you looked around the channel, enjoyed the other stuff, we'd be very happy to see you join our wonderful community on Patreon. Not only that, there are a number of people out there amongst you that are watching right now that I know have contributed to our Buy Me a Coffee campaign, which made a small sort of seed fund for money that would have been going forward to Standing with Stones. What we propose to you is that the money in that kitty goes forward to the making of the first film, the Prehistory Guys, go to Carnac. Now, we haven't adjusted the Buy Me a Coffee page yet to reflect the change, and that's one of the first things on our to-do list. Nevertheless, if you prefer the idea of a one-off donation, that will go forward to the production of one of our films, then Buy Me a Coffee may be the better choice for you rather than committing to a regular monthly contribution. So I think you'll find both links to the our Patreon page and the Buy Me a Coffee page down below, although the Buy Me a Coffee page still reflects the idea of us doing Standing with Stones too. That's all I think I wanted to say. Stu, we do have a PayPal account. I used to another way of doing it, Stu, I think a new thing that I've never seen used is below here. There should be a thanks button, which actually goes via YouTube payment scheme. That also goes via PayPal. But the Buy Me a Coffee thing goes via PayPal as well. So that shouldn't be a problem. That's all I wanted to say, Rupert. Anything you needed to add to that?
Not really. I mean, just picking up on comments as they roll up. Actually, Yoda's mum says, Rupert, can you give a tour of that rock collection? I've actually done a few in Patreon. A little tour of my cabinet of curiosities. I keep meaning to do another one. Actually, it's finding the time. Should do. Because there's a lot of good stuff in there.
I started building up a little bit of a collection, you know.
See. What have you got?
Well, I've got my greenstone axe.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah. Which I don't think is Langdale, but looking at a very similar piece in the Wiltshire Museum may well be from a greenstone source in Northern Ireland. It's it's a very rough. It's not a fancy one, but it's nevertheless. Who knows? I don't have
It's still a lovely piece, though, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, provenance on that. But of course, recently... Thank you, David.
Yes, definitely.
That
thank you, David.
replica of Ertz's copper axe head.
Yes, mine is just over there.
And this, hacked out before our very eyes by James Dilley at Avebury.
Yeah.
a month or so ago.
Yeah.
Gosh, time flies.
What's
Yeah,
the
the
10 to 11?
first stage of a rough out of a Flint accent. Anyway, sorry.
No, that's all right. I was just wondering how, it's opening a can of worms, isn't it? You go, all right, I'll show you this. No, stop it. No, I'll be here till midnight.
I'll show you my cameras, my guitar. I've shown you my dog.
Jim said, "Where did you get the axe from? Which one are you talking about?
This
Jim?
one.
Do you mean the Langdale axe that Mike's got? And that's the one that James Dilly made for us in Avebury.
That one I purchased from eBay actually
as a Langdale axe.
As I don't know if it claimed that. Certainly, a greenstone sort, but I needed something to illustrate. What we're going to say in Standing with Stones.
It's the right kind
but
of
it's
thing.
not. It's not a nice one, but and it's not almost certainly not Langdale. But nevertheless, it's a thing of beauty. I can't imagine this is. It's.
Shall I show them? Shall I show them my Tyrona obsidian axe?
Go for it. Yes, before we go. Yeah. Sorry. It's all right.
I was trying not to snap my earphone.
As Jimi Hendrix said at Woodstock, you can leave if you want to. We're just jamming, that's all.
Hang on a second while I plug myself back in.
Oh, all right. Sorry. Rupert, does your cat stay out overnight?
The cable always snags on the back of my chair.
Sorry, you didn't hear that, did you? Rupert, does your cat stay out at night?
Does my cat stay out at night?
Yes.
He does, but he'll be back in the house now. My wife will have let him back in the house. But we put him out at night for the simple reason that we have doors that you can't put cat flaps in for various reasons. And when we let him stay in at night, 4:30 in the morning, he wants to go out every single morning. And what he does, he's a little bugger, is he will just go to one of the doors, a wardrobe door, it doesn't matter what, and he'll just push on it. Bang, 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 because none of them, in wardrobe doors, they don't fit snugly, do they? And he will just bang, bang, bang until you wake up and let him out. I've thrown pillows at him and told him to shut up, and he'll just pause for the pillow to settle and then bang, 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 bang. Doesn't care. So, yeah, he goes out. And I've told him, if you stop the banging, you can stay in. But he doesn't take any notice. This is an obsidian axe
wow. Oh my goodness gracious
it's
me.
the Tyrona civilization. It was given to me by Coggy when I was staying with them some years back. It's the Tyrona civilization. It could be 1,500 years old. That sort of period. It could be later. It could be 1,000 years old. But anyway, that is wrong way. Come on, Soskin, don't be an idiot. It's just an absolutely beautiful piece of work. And the thing that is so evocative for me is that given to me at the same time was this, and that is a conquistador's iron axe head.
Oh my Lord!
And
I didn't know you had that.
And so this is one of the Spanish bad people who went over and dispatched all those people in South America. That's from one of them, and it is quite possible that this man was responsible for the demise of whoever had. It's quite possible. Don't know. I'm making that story up. I'm just saying it's possible. They came from the same place.
Wow.
And yeah, but there. I mean, look at that, for a piece of stonework. That's just stunning. Look at those edges. God, how long must it? Oh, love it.
Yeah. And with that, I think it is really time for us to say good night. Ladies and gents, right. Thank you all for your company. It's been most entertaining. Thank you especially to people who posted questions and kept our grey matter on the hop there. Always a good idea. Lord knows what would happen if we didn't Have to do a bit of cranial exercise from time to time every month. Come to that slow and sticky end. Anyway, that's it from me.
And from me, thank you very much, folks. Much appreciated.
Till the next
see
time.
you next time. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
See you.